I hope you are all refreshed after the break, and I think we waited enough for all authors who are a little bit late. And now let's move to the section 2. First of all, I would like to say thank you to our sponsors, and those are FTMC. Thanks them for letting us having this conference in their area. They have a very great opportunities for us. Second one is Verslo žinios for helping us spread the information. And the next one is ITPC and Informacinių technologijų ir paslaugų centras for helping us to record and spread the information digitally. And they are behind you, filming everything and helping us with audio. And also very big thanks to our main sponsor Litesco, for helping us with all the financial needs. And now I think it would be good to speak a little bit about Energy Day, Lithuanian Energy Day. And shortly, it was about 126 years ago in Rietavas, first electrical light bulb was lit and in Lithuania. And since then we do have this wonderful event which we can relate to and look each year what we have accomplished in energy sector. And now I think we can move to the second part, and I would like to invite our fourth speaker, CEO of Elektrum Lietuva, Martynas Giga.
Good afternoon. Welcome back from lunch. And when I saw the time and I need to present, should I do a microphone? When I need to present, I realized that once again I'm doing presentation right after lunch. I don't know, it's either organizers usually think that my speeches are very boring, you have time to ease into next topics, or on the opposite. They will help you get energized, so hopefully we'll get you energized. As I mentioned, my name is Martynas Giga, and I'm a director of Elektrum Lietuva for last 3 years. But my background is finances and sales, and both in education and previously that I worked with. And today, when I was asked to present, I was thinking, what should I present? What should I talk about? And since I mentioned that we are Elektrum Lietuva, we are a sales company, I'm going to do about sales and about frontline, how we deal with customers and how we see the market. And that's why I named the presentation. It's all about the customers, even in the energy sector. It's not what we see behind. So today my presentation will be divided in 3 parts. I have to speak a little bit about Elektrum Lietuva, give some credit to that company. Then the second part will be about energy market in general, about the energy market in Lithuania, and how we, energy suppliers, are acting it or preparing for some changes that are going to come. And the third part is about Elektrum Lietuva and how we're changing our business model in light of a changing energy market. So basically, I've been using this slide for the last 3 years, and I think it's still relevant. Because this is usually the question or the faces that I get when I say that, when I mention Elektrum Lietuva. You know, there were definitely not many people know about us, but some things. Well, we are a retail branch of Lithuanian Energy group in Lithuania. You can see we are operating in Latvia and Estonia as well. In Lithuania, we just sell to business customers only because of, well, we haven't fully deregulated the market yet. So we would like to be in the households market, but nobody allows us. And we mainly still focus on electricity only. While in Estonia and Latvia, we already have fully deregulated markets and we sell to households. So not only electricity and gas sales as well. And some key things to maybe you get a picture of who we are. Well, we have more than 7,000 customers, business customers. And we actually been growing, and we grew most rapidly in 2015. And if you can see, our market share is a little bit shrinking. It's fluctuating. And it's one of the, I guess it's a result of our strategy that we decided to diversify our portfolio and to go into smaller business customers. And I think we were the most active there, and I think the most successful. And today we have the most business customers in Lithuania. So I'm not too worried about the market shares and the volumes. I think one or two bigger customers come back to our portfolio, and this picture could change drastically. I'm mainly worried about the number of clients. And this is it. This is the only thing that I will brag about Elektrum Lietuva, even though I could go on and on and on and on. But so next part I'm going to go to is energy markets, and we like this word, and it's been used in literature quite a bit. It's getting disrupted, and we've been hearing disrupted talking about any sector. So we have this simple drawing that we did a while ago, I think, when we started entering small business customers, basically to educate. So what's this whole market is about, and the thing is that this ecosystem, balancing all stakeholders in the market, starting from producers to market operators to system operators to regulator to even governmental bodies to wholesalers, retailers, and us and the customers. And here we, as a retailer, always, we're trying to find our spot of what's the rules that we get and what's the desire from the customer. And so, looking at the market, we try to map out. So, what's this future customer going to be like? And in the light of this changing market, and but currently, what we see right now, that it's the main theme is that in Lithuania and probably in many markets, that the electric power industry is and will continue to be guided by central mission to provide customers with secure, reliable, resilient, and affordable electricity. In Lithuania, this is all about wholesale and regulatory. All you hear in the public, all you hear in the media is just about what's going on in the production side. What's the production units? Are they working in which country? How are they going to affect the price? About coal price, about CO2 prices, about water, cold, is a cold wave coming? It's all about that part. Also about the flows. We've been hearing quite a bit after Nordbalt cable opened. It's all about, is it actually flowing from Sweden or not? Is it going to impact the price or not? Electricity price. And it's about the balancing, about the system, are we doing good thing or not? And now about subsidies. Either it could be production or could be consumption. And I think I'm maybe the most irritated about this subsidy for consumption, because it's directly related to households market opening. So yeah, and the main thing is, but where is the customer? It seems that regulators or governmental body decided, that we will decide your path. You will work with that company only or other company. I'm a customer as well. Sometimes I would like to have a choice as well. So here we're not talking about the customers at all. We're basically saying that, this whole infrastructure is set up for you and you take it. Choice? I don't know. But I purposely put people in there because eventually retail is about people. And even though when I said small business customers, we say that there's still people there. They are directly the benefit, the people that get benefit. So therefore, we say, from now I'm gonna switch to talking about households and retails, even though we're still not working there, but we're planning to be in there. So yeah, so we tried to map and see, so what's this new energy consumer is going to be like? You know, some things come from our experience in Latvia, some things come from our experience in Estonia, and what we hear about when we talk to customers here in Lithuania, or when we try to discuss internally, we as a customer. So what's, you know, what we expect. And I put some key points. I'm not going to go through all of them, you know, but you can see that not all of them are related to energy. You know, maybe the top 3 are related to energy, and 4 of them is related to general retail. So what does customer expect from the retail company? Because energy retail is still eventually a retail company. You know, okay, markets are changing. The customer is expecting some things, you know, more renewables. You know, we hear even the top slide, the first slide we saw, wind, solar. You know, customers expect that. You know, that to be in their consumption portfolio. Electric vehicles, you know, we've been discussing quite a bit as well. You know, so it seems like, you know, it's coming, but when is it eventually going to come? It will. You know, it's inevitable. And at the same time, renewables and prosumers. Can I decide my own fate? Can I not look at the payback period, but can I do good for the environment? Can I do good for myself, for my family, for my anything in the future? And then everything else is just, it's a retail. You know, I want to be personal. I want to get personal offers, personal attentions. You know, and I want to be educated. And even now, I would say the customers are the most educated, you know, ever been. They come to you knowing everything. So basically, either you support, prove their, you know, their ideas, and they will still work with you, or either just they leave. And then this advanced self-service or digital ecosystem. Well, we still, I will stress it later as well, but we still, I see most success when we do direct, you know, people to people still. But eventually, once people start realizing, you know, how this energy system works, you know, and then starts trusting it, you know, and finally realizing that we actually have a choice. You know, this will be a key point as well. I put local, regional. You know, it's basically in the light of politics. You know, we see what's trade wars. We see about you know concentrating on the local things, local producers, local service providers. It will play a key role as well. And then to prove my point, you know, I don't call myself the smartest. You know, and I actually even Googled and found some study done by Accenture, consulting, a big company. And so what they did, they asked thousands of users in many countries, you know, so about what's their expectation for the energy market, and you know, and they asked, so what would make you willing to buy additional products or services from an energy provider, or even switch one if they had a choice? Yeah, and these are the factors impacting willingness to buy additional products or services. And once again, you see the top 3. Nothing about energy. Even though it was asked about energy provider, nothing about energy. Just later on, you know, we started seeing it, you know, some topics that are related to energy. You know, it's so the question, then I guess the answer comes down to, you know, it seems that energy providers, it's not about just commodity anymore. That's how we saw it, and that's how we kind of built our actions, or the whole market around it. Yeah. And well, eventually, you know, we tried to map out. So what's actually the product or services that the customers are willing to receive, or we as a provider should give. You know, we've been stuck in the utility phase for a long time. Commodity utility is something, you know, just comes for granted. And then when we start talking about digital products, when eventually we get to this functional value. You know, it's easy and utility. You get it whenever you need it. Something really basically covers. But when we see that, you know, we need to step into another phase of this engagement. You know, that people or retailers not only get this functional value, some basic needs covered, but it makes the product, the service more human. You know, that I'm engaged, and I'm actually receiving this product that I love. So do we see a business model changing Well, yes, you know, of course. You either adapt or you go home. So basically, those things that I mentioned, you know, that these are directing all energy suppliers. Us as well. You know, our main topic, and we see competition as a big driver. We want to succeed. We want to be the best. You know, and us, as me, as you know, as a managing company, and people in the company as well. We don't come just to come to work. We come to succeed. You know, and one of the things that how we succeed is actually we give something to the customer. You know, so we see that we stepping away from the just commodity provider into orchestrator of innovative ecosystem. And do we create an ecosystem, or we step into some kind of ecosystem? And ecosystem is not going to be about it's not going to be about us being the strongest, and not about us alone winning. It's about the ecosystem that either we create or we step in is going to be the strongest. You know, so we have to be open. That, hey, we're not going to be the only ones that conquer everything. And at the same time, we've been seeing in the other sectors, and I think it's eventually going to come here as well, as a service. You know, either be infrastructure, either be a platform as a service, or you know, or software as a service. And it's reflecting back to my previous slide. We need to have a winning brand, a company that has to match customers' needs to be on their terms. You know, when I need it. You need to be when I need it, not when we as a supplier need to be. You know, it has to be delivered personalized experience. We say that, you know, when we talk about masses, of course, it's the easiest thing to standardize. It makes the processes easier. But at the same time, we as a consumer, I don't know if you feel good and you get the same offer as everybody else. It's a complicated thing, definitely. But how do we standardize? I think the technology will definitely play a big role in there. You know, about digging in and actually combining the offer, and then you know, and the offers that they receive or the products they receive needs to match who we are as a consumer, and do my worldview or the company, does it really match my views? You know? And I guess the one critical thing that about this last point is that, you know, consumers will not be comparing us with other energy suppliers in terms of customer experience. They'll be matching us against other service providers, either bank, either telco company, you know, and they will say, okay, our experience working with us is either up to par or higher or lower. You know, and this will be decided, you know, if they love to work with us or not. So we don't see here competition only with other energy suppliers. You know, or expectations, or the standards that we set. Yeah, sorry, get some water. So how do we, as Elektrum Lietuva, you know, adapt to this market? And have we been adapting? Actually, have we been doing something? I think we have. And then one of the things that we kind of as a catchy note, we decided for ourselves that we know we're going to go not into functional value or utility. We stepped away into emotional, and it's one of our slogans, you know, positive energy. You know, you have to feel positive working with us. Not being, you know, oh, I'm stuck in a contract forever, but I'm still waiting for it to leave. You know, so we don't want that. You know. So this is, you know, what the customer should feel like. Everything is easy, everything is smooth. You know, I can relax and I get what I need. This is, you know, so hopefully, you know, eventually we'll succeed one day, you know. But the biggest measure will be, you know, when we come back and ask our customers, our potential customers, do they feel like that or not? So, you know, of course I have to say, but how do we change in this business model? I mentioned that, you know, we are working in the B2B segment, but we've been shaping ourselves and, you know, setting up our processes and the sales force and even and the messages in the market, PR, marketing, everything for the retail customer already. You know, not only small business to business, but to households as well. So okay, we have this big electricity provider. You know, we say we are one of the, well, of course we are one of the top players in the market. But you know, eventually, is it enough to be an electricity provider? not. You know, we're creating ecosystem that, you know, we're creating personalized products for the customers. So therefore, we're adding, you know, purchasing, not just selling, but purchasing from the small producers. Either it could be a company has a solar panel on the roof, selling excess capacity to us. We have customers like that. You know, either it could be a standalone wind farm or solar panel farm. Well, you know, we're always ready to help in that case. You know, gas sales, of course. Well, it's just eventual step for us. You know, we tested out in Estonia and Latvia. I think we can do it well as they're pretty good as well. Solar panels, yeah. It's it's a must be. You know, we have to be in there. We tested out in Latvia, and we are stepping in there as well, and very soon. So, you know, ESO gave a presentation just recently. We'll give them competition there, and I think we have a bit different product, and I think competition is good in that sense because the customer can choose. You know. And well, insurance, you know, it's nothing related to electricity, but it's about, you know, about your property. You know, we're talking about the house, about solar panels. I know we can use the current. You know, it can be cross-sell, upsell all products, definitely. And then about smart home, but people want to be in power. Well, when they consume, what consume. You know, so and it's, when you see, it's like all about retail. We're nothing in there. We're dreaming, and we're getting ready for that. But we'll be there. And then, you know, we have actually even advertisement for solar panels already. You know, we'll step out with it, you know, very, very soon. It has nothing to do with payback period. It has nothing to do about, you know, technical things. It will be about emotions. Because this is our main goal, you know, because we need to step into this emotional phase. And when you really think about, you know, do really people in every day really that rational? Do we really go for this 1 cent cheaper gasoline on the other side of Vilnius? Probably not. You know, it's about all ecosystem that we provide to customer. And what is it? Well, hopefully, what does it bring? You know, well, it brings loyalty, loyalty to us, customer loyalty to us. You know that they are happy to work with us. You know they're happy that on the services that we provide. They're happy about the convenience, about the digital ecosystem, about personalized offers, about customer experience in general. So they want to stay with us. They want to work with us. You know, and we measure this by how many contracts we pull on, and how we measure how many products we upsell. You know, if they're happy with one product, most likely they will buy another product with us as well. And this will bring, if Facebook doesn't die soon, you know, hopefully we will get all those recommendations, all those likes, you know, and one of the, probably this is my last slide, and because once again I'm not as famous, not as smart, so I usually like to quote some other people as well. It's standard in presentations. You know, the people influence people, and nothing influences people more than a recommendation from a trusted friend. A trusted referral influences people more than the best broadcasted message. So when I said, you know, we're looking at the ecosystem digital, you know, and maybe not direct sales, eventually it's still, you know, if our customer is happy and they get the experience that they want, you know, they will recommend. You know, people, hopefully more companies will come and they will see, you know, it's good working with Lithuanian Energy. You get more than, you actually receive, you get what you expected and even more. And my final slide, basically people, it's about people, you know. So, you know, about happy people that like to work with us. So yeah, so this is my presentation. I don't know if I talked about energy. But you know, the main idea is that, you know, we cannot get stuck into being happy about ourselves and producing or something. That, you know, it's eventually, do customers need it? Do they find value in it? Of course, if we tell them you need to use it, they will use it if they have no other option. But if they have the option, will they choose it? So this is what we're looking at. Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giga, for a cheerful presentation. Does anyone have questions for our speaker? Oh, okay.
My name Tomas Liaudina. I'm Tomas Liaudinskas. So, if you're going to start selling electricity or maybe even the gas for the household, what are you going to give for like everyday person? Like he will just look what he consumed, how much electricity, how much gas, he will pay for it, and like it's that all. It's all. Like,
see, this is the idea that you
the promotion.
We're stuck in the utility phase. But you know, but at the same time, I could ask you one thing about, you know, do we really choose about the price all the time? I know there are several banks, and they all have the same price. But why do you choose Swedbank instead of SEB?
Recommendations.
Exactly. You like the service that you receive. It's not about the price only. It's about, you know, do you get extra things?
Yes.
If we get stuck in electricity, yes, you know, it will be extremely difficult for us to take customers from ESSO if they stay with ESSO. You know, they will move to, well, we know that they will move to a different company already. Of course, it will be very difficult, and we know that. You know, this is something that we strive for. You know, that and we don't expect that it's going to come in masses. You know, that people will come to us. Definitely not. I'm realistic on that case, definitely. So you know, but in some things that we're building on top of that. You know, learning from. So why do some business customers choose us? You know,
I don't know. Maybe the price.
yeah. So no.
No.
We're not the cheapest. Never
Okay.
were. So you know, so it's about other things as well. You know, but of course, you know, the customer he needs to not feel that, you know, oh, I'm overpaying. That's I think it's a dangerous thing, because it's just a matter of time when he will leave. You know, the question is that does he receive a value for the money he's paying?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a vague answer as well. But you know, I know that, you know, there's those things that we're discussing as well. But you know, but when I say, okay, even in price terms, let's talk about 2% price difference. If we're cheaper than competitor for the big consumer, that's a big amount, right? He will come to us, of course. But it's 2% for the household consumer that consumes what, 2 megawatt hours per year. What does it come down to? €1? Most likely, he will say, we'll not do anything. This is the decision that we see when we talk about business, even small businesses. And smaller they get, they have an option of doing nothing. You know, if you need to buy a car insurance, you cannot drive on the roads unless you buy car insurance. So you have to make a choice who you buy car insurance from. But from electricity, no one's going to leave without electricity. You will still have this less guarantee supplier. So in that case, you know, well, it's just €1. If it's just about the price, I will not leave.
Thank you for your answer.
Yeah, but it's not too concrete, but yeah, hopefully.
Hello, Paulus from ESSO. You are operating in 3 Baltic states in General Electrum, and we saw that you were quite fast growing in Lithuania. I may ask, what are the main difference between a consumer's expectations between Baltic states? I mean, does consumer differ from Estonia to Lithuania?
Yes. And since, you know, we laughingly group Lithuanians and Latvians in one group, and Estonians in different group. If they say, we could say that Estonians are more pragmatic. It is more about the price, you know, but it's also about digital. They're not so keen on buying from direct sales. They can actually go online and choose. So when we talk about this, there was some initiative like a few years ago, and you could get online and compare prices from the different competitors. In Lithuania, it died very quickly. Nobody went there. Nobody posted prices because nearly no need in there. In Estonia, it's booming. You know what else is booming? You know that but this would maybe contradict my thing. But about households, it was totally normal to go from door to door, sell a contract. You know, it was totally normal, and which I don't know might be strange in Lithuania if somebody come to your house and start selling electricity, but if you come back to that, Lithuanians and Latvians love more attention. You know, they like to be educated. They like to be, you know, told what's the difference. They want to feel good, and then they made the choice. You know, it's not something, you know, oh, you caught me in the wrong moment, and eventually, oh, well, now you're stuck. You have a 3-year contract. What do? You know, But this is, I think this is the main criteria. So when we say we try to build on digital, but, and we tested like during some campaigns to small business customers, there was not as big a success as in Estonia. There's still, a lot about, direct sales, about still going and telling the customer, so what's about, and answering the questions right on the spot. So I would say it's moving there to digital, but maybe it will be faster in Estonia than in Lithuania.
This movement to digital, does it related to some infrastructure that Estonians has in advance, for instance, where Estonian data hub, or it's more related with consumers themselves to be more digital active?
I think it's. I think you answered the question because it's the second part. Well, they have e-signature that they vote, so that kind of tells something about, that they trust digital system. It's okay for them, It's okay for them to give some access. It's okay for them to share information about their consumption. Talking about ESSA, it's hard for us to get information about consumers, when they consume, unless there are customers or we ask the customer to give it to us. It's okay in Estonia to get this information, because it's very simple for them to approve. What does it mean for us? We can actually give you a personalized offer, not just standardized. We can actually use our infrastructure, we can use our data mining, whatever you want to call it, and give you personalized. So, when I was giving this presentation, not this presentation, different presentation, about saying why we still have this not regulated market in Lithuania, why households are still with one, let's say, last guarantee supplier. And the answer from regulator was that it's, we believe that it's best for the consumer to be with the strong, to be with the big company. So I asked them, do you think we are small? No, but said, so who's it best for? Is it best for the slide that I showed, regulated market, wholesale market, that we decide for somebody that is your path, or is it best for the consumer? I'm proactive on this point of view. I think it's best for the consumer. I cry when I lose a customer. That's how it is. It's a pride thing. At the same time, somebody says something that we did something wrong. Or somebody did something better. So hopefully the same message could carry over to the households. And I believe that this competition drives progress. It does. And we saw it in any market. So it would be the same if we talk about telco industry, and we talked about those towers that they have. Nothing about consumers, just towers. And we forgot about this infrastructure. We talked about the customer. Of course, you need to have infrastructure to be able to provide something for the customer. So this is how I see it. So I've been asking, so when do you think we can open the household market, and I can buy from somebody I can choose to.
Great. So much.
Since one of the main topics is innovation, does innovation in production make your life more simple or more difficult? Because as I understand, you are like the middleman that has to explain to the consumer how this innovative technology or methods help them and benefit. And are people more skeptical or open-minded about these ideas?
Yeah, just remember one thing. People trust the least retailers and energy companies in Lithuania because they think, that's we're just a bunch of crooks, that we decide where to put money at, Yes, we are in a sense the middleman, but at the same time, Maxim is the middleman as well. People don't go buy milk from Žemaitijos Pienas directly, right? So it's our goal and our position to pool all the resources, all the production, to make the most valuable offer for the customer. We intermediate between wholesale and the retail. Yeah, but yeah, people say, we don't own the lines, so we just exchange the bills, exchange the paper. So why should we buy from us? So it's a difficult. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for presentation. I just have a question, since you have mentioned that you're working for B2B kind of structure in Lithuania. I'm just curious, the renewable energy industry that you have mentioned, you're investing in it and looking for opportunities in Lithuania. Is it a completely economical terms, like business-wise, money talking thing, or is there a push from your customers, from businesses for renewable energy, some sort of certificate? Is there a value they have it from?
Yes. Well, we don't. Maybe I should put more about us in the beginning. We are a producer as well, you know, in Lithuanian Energy, and then we produce most of the electricity from renewables, from hydro energy. So we already have this idea that, you know, we need to take this flag and lead it. So it's not about money only. It's about, you know, that we take some stance. We take some values, some value, you know, stance that, you know, customers want that. And you say, when I say, of course, when we talk about payback, many probably, I don't know, customers will choose it. Probably not too many if you don't have subsidy. But of course, customers need it. And we talked about, you know, there was a bigger demand, and I think it's pushed from, let's say, Scandinavian companies over there, that, you know, from the German companies. I want to buy green electricity. And it could be either supported through certificates that we had a while ago, and we didn't make any money on those certificates. We passed it on as this additional value, additional service to the customer. If you need it, please. You know, we can arrange it and pack it and everything. So if you really need it, and from the renewable side, well, it says at some point when your business is to sell megawatts, and you say now we will help you to consume less, it kind of contradicts our business in a sense, you know. But I think we must be there. We need to show that, you know, we support that. You know, it's not going to end only in electricity and solars. It's going to end in other things as well.
Great, I think that's all the questions. And Martinez Gid, thanks to you one more time. And we want to give you the reminder of our gratitude. Thank you. Very interesting presentation. And now let's move on further. And we would like to invite managing partner at Contrarian Ventures, Rokas Pečiulaitis.
I think my first question is, I just want to understand the people that are here. So majority of the people are students, or it's a mix from industry? How many of you are students? Quite a few, majority. Okay. So I think the questions are going to students, I guess. I think I wanted to start this because I didn't know the number myself. So what do you think is the number of total energy consumption in Lithuania? Whoever gets the closest, you kind of Google, goes for lunch. No, because you're from industry. No, does anyone have a guess? 3 gigawatts. How much? 3 gigawatts. Oh, it's a bit more.
11 terawatts.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go for lunch sometime. So it's very close. Yeah, it reached, I think, now 11, I think, yesterday. Or you guys probably know it. I think it was 10.5 or something. 10.9, something like that. So it's just a reference point, because we're going to go, like my presentation is around, I'm going to tell briefly what I do, and then we're going to move into what energy is doing and talking a bit of numbers. So I'm a managing partner of Contrarian Ventures, which is an early stage venture capital firm. We're working, our biggest investor is Lithuanian Energy, which is the biggest energy provider, integrated energy provider in Lithuania. We are an early stage investor in energy enabled companies, which obviously innovate in the energy sector. And we're focused to invest in companies at pre-seed, seed, so very early stage. We invest from 50K to 300K per deal. And we also run an acceleration program where companies can go incubate and also pilot within Lithuanian energy infrastructure, because that's very important, because what the biggest entry level to this specific industry, which we're gathered here, energy, is the infrastructure, because if you have a software solution, you still need to test it in real life environment. So we're a partner of 7, 3 Lithuanians, 2 Israeli and 2 Dutch. The Israeli and Dutch partners have way more experience than I have in venture capital. They did numerous exits, invested in over 100 companies. And we're trying to build both a regional, big presence as an investor, but we can also invest in other European companies. We can't talk about investments yet, but we did a couple investments, actually not in Lithuania, but in UK. So just a quick one, because I think I only have 20 minutes, right? And I have 46 slides, so that's going to be a rough one. We invest so when you think energy, it's all renewables, but not really. So energy is shifting completely, and I think my presentation today is going to lead towards that, where we started and where we are now. So the idea is basically what we look at is any solution, and it's kind of integrated. You could have a big data solution that solves optimization problem, and that's still very relevant because it has a lot of cost-saving element to it. So there could be anything, EV to more traditional, maybe optimization of power plants, optimization of renewables. So there's a lot of innovation happening in different spaces, but I think the data element for me particularly is the most important one, and obviously solving like complex problems which still relates to energy companies, like how do you maintain your grid? That's a very expensive exercise, and there's a whole lot of innovations that involve drones, computer vision, that you can solve these things. So obviously they're very complicated problems like the sector itself. So that's a quick one. So we have an accelerator that is more like a pre-seed, so super early stage, someone like you guys that study energy as engineers, or you have a business friend and you have a lawyer and contribute a team, and then you try to solve a big problem. So that's where we're trying to aim. We invest up to 50K, take equity in the company, and then sort of lead you to next following route and seed, and then obviously, hopefully, scaling the product globally. So that's sort of like kind of a roadmap. So Piegos is where we're based, so it's sort of like a hub which gathers all the people, and then we have like Accelerator 1, which is the accelerating program. Contrarian mentors ourselves as a seed investor, and then our partners funds, which is Elevator in Israel and ICOS in the Netherlands. So let's start with a brief. So what I want to talk today is about different means of energy, right? So how this evolved, where we are, and how this knowledge is going to completely reshape this thing. So there's 6 elements to energy, which are abundance, economic, reliable, carbon-free, and social innovating. And all of these, can you assess each basically energy type. So let's start with the oldest one that everyone kind of started getting energy and producing energy. So coal. Just a couple of numbers just for you to understand. So you guessed it right. So it's 11 terawatts, right? So consumption of coal in UK was 127 terawatts in 2012. They're now at 22 terawatts. So it decreased by 80% over the course of 5 years. And Theresa May last year said that, you know what, guys, we're going to ban this. So in 2025, it's going to be 0. So where's this going? So naturally, one would ask the question, renewables, correct, partially. Also, there is still gas. So how do we go and see? So in 1946, the whole industry basically was running coal. That was the sort of economic element, how it drove UK to be a very successful manufacturing country, a very cheap energy. So economic element is very, very important in this sense. Now it's, in this 2017 July, it's only 2% of the total energy manufactured. So they're very interesting changes that are happening. However, on the other continent, we have another guy that says, oh, right, guys, now we're actually good with coal. We want to preserve jobs. So not only we're not going to cut, we're going to leave the Paris Pact, and we're going to actually increase the production. So whatever he's doing, good luck to him, but I think he's going against the odds of himself. But they're obviously moving to clean coal. So there's dirty coal and clean coal. So these sort of two are not contradictory. Very funny, so you have a museum now, a coal museum, which has the solar power panels on it. So this is how you put in a perspective on itself. So industry is reshaping from different angles, in a sense. So to assess what is coal. So it's abundant, correct? It's actually, that's why it's kind of economic efficient, because there's quite a lot of it, right? China is still running on coal and kind of completely disregarding buying green energy certificates to keep itself afloat, but obviously the result is a bad one. It's a social and carbon footprint that releases, right? So that's what we're trying to get rid of, these red dots that we're going to go through the presentation. Innovating, questionable, obviously. It was innovating at that point because it was economically efficient, and that leads towards the fact that it makes sense to have it at some point. But then I think we're in a cornerstone in majority of the countries. In Europe, I think it's only Poland that is now still planning to open a coal facility. So the whole Europe is dissembling it and going with more renewable sources or gas. So next one, oil. So oil is abundant. because it has limited resources, more than coal. It has very great economical effect. There's products of it. You can use it in multiple layers. It creates a lot of economic element to our whole economy because it's kind of driven by it at some point. I think it's leaving from there as well. It's very reliable as a sort of source of energy. However, carbon footprint, again, and social element are pretty bad. We kind of remind ourselves what happened in Mexico or any other countries, right? Innovating, to some extent, it kind of reaches capabilities now because it's harder to extract, so it more goes into infrastructure, how you can get it, which still leaves a very high footprint. So what is happening with these oil companies, right? Shells, BPs, what they're doing, they're investing in venture capital. And why? Because they're trying to basically innovate themselves from inside. So they're trying to understand where they can go and how they can reach talent, technology, and different sources, right? So that's their holy grail that they believe. So corporate venture capital in the energy sector has reached ultimate highs in last year. So it's a very interesting sort of element of what's happening with coal completely going down. So another element to oil, right? So what's happening? EVs, I mean, as much as we want and Elon Musk would want, are taking the world. I mean, it's going gradually, probably faster than everyone expected because you already have bans in Norway that there's going to be not a single car that is powered by traditional petrol or diesel. And this is going in all the countries, UK, France. So there is a trend, and that's not that far reached as everyone would expect it. Obviously, we looked at the movies back then. I think the Holy Grail should have reached us by now, but I think it takes time but what is driving it? Technology primarily. So the next best hanging fruit when you're going from oil and coal is gas. Gas is a very, very important source of energy because gas primarily is the sole driving force in majority of European countries. So is it abundant? Not really. Is it easy to produce? Very, and economically efficient. Reliable? Questionable, because you have friends from the east that can easily turn you off. Carbon footprint, it's better than carbon, it's better than coal and better than oil, however, it's still not ideal. Innovating? Yes, because there's a lot of technical elements to it to make it more economic efficient as well as more basically reliable. So there's a lot of innovation happening in that space, and that's why I think BP, Shell, and all these big oil and gas companies are investing in venture capital. So let's see. So everyone would think that, okay, so who are the primary sources of energy? Still, we have friends from our east that still have the majority of the market in Europe. It's shrinking rapidly. However, it's still one of the biggest sources with 34% for the whole Europe. So the sort of reliability element for a country level, it's quite a problematic one. You know, you don't want to find yourself as Belarus being shut down and not having to be able to heat your houses, right? Next one, nuclear. So we know what happened in Fukushima and other kind of places which are not that far away, and we have this sort of threat not that far from Vilnius, I think, being built in Belarus. So abundant, not really as much as you can extract uranium and make it work. Economic, partially cheaper than majority of it, still one of the cheapest sources in France, which has one of the biggest nuclear power plants, as well as US. Reliable, very reliable. Plants work for quite a long time. However, there's a massive social element and there's lack of innovation you can do with make it more efficient. Because there's a couple of facts, like it's not easy to innovate in that particular space because you need specific conditions and it's obviously super heavily regulated because the social and economic impact of something going wrong is not something that someone tolerate, right? Because we have like tragedies in the countries. Still, one works on the economic side and carbon footprint, so we're kind of happy, right, with having it around. However, the problem, these things are very, very expensive, right? So we had in Lithuania even, we had Ignalina as a power plant. We kind of thought about building a new one, but they have a massive price tag. So this one, built by Westgauss and Duke Energy, for example, in Daphne, cost 11 billion. So you have infrastructure investors that would take that risk, given the uncertainty where it's going to go in like 20 years, because these things tend to run for 50 to 70 years, right? So this is a substantial investment. However, there are more innovative approaches to that. You can do hydro, right, combined with nuke. So that becomes more interesting, becomes cheaper, more sustainable, and there is sort of combinations of the two where you can achieve this energy that is more, let's say, ideal in our best case scenario. So, okay, so what happens now? So, renewables. So they kind of tick all the 6 boxes, right? However, economic is just getting there. I mean, economic is now way better than it was like 10 years ago, and we're going to go through numbers, which makes more rationalizations to the statement. But they're ticking all the boxes. And innovation can happen in multiple ways. Solar, wind, offshore, onshore, better technology in multiple sense from software to hardware. And that's where we're interested. We're not interested in that as an infrastructure player to own these things, but we're interested to find companies that can help these infrastructure players to make this thing more greener in all these 6 boxes. One was missing. I don't know who stole it, but yeah. So basically, since 2008, we have in onshore we have 7x more wind production around the globe, and offshore, we don't see it much, right? But like this has been ballooned. Purely from technological point, delivery point, installment point, as well as the economical reasoning per kilowatt hour. So now it's 2 cents. It was, I think it was 7 cents. I don't recollect, so I don't want to make a mistake, so someone can correct me. So now it's 2 cents at 217, and this is going to go down, and it's going to go down even more in offshore. So guys like BP, and like Shell were in this game from like 2006, 2008, and they massively invested. Obviously post these events that happened in Mexico, etc. But it started to make sense gradually in the economic perspective. And I think now where we're reaching sort of the 2 cent, where it's harder to go lower, right? That's where technology kicks in, because you can't just go incremental. You have to go parabolic in a sense. You have to go times to make this more efficient. So the world is kind of changing to the good side. What's interesting that everyone underestimated this change and the pace of it. And I think that's primarily leading towards the fact that everyone assumed a gradual shift, even though it kind of went, as always, parabolic in a sense. So this is a sort of a chart from one of the main international energy associations that produces a report on the sort of energy sort of estimation of how much is going to be produced in renewables. And they constantly beat it. So they had to increase these expectations from year to year, but they still completely underestimated it. And that becomes very interesting. However, obviously, there were some business people that they overestimated it. So we didn't reach that point where it was 43 times more in 2007. But the adoption gets gradually, and one needs to understand in a customer sense, it's always more laggy, right? So like in Lithuania, I think Lithuanian Energy, which is our investor, has a big problem, prosumers, right? That never really picked up because the installation costs are rather high, as well as technology. And someone rationalizes, especially given, depends obviously on the country wealth, how to rationalize whether, and you mentioned a very good point before, is it's a more psychological rather than economic one. And economic is going to reach you at some point, but it's always more psychological. Do I want to be a prosumer? Or is it like, does it make sense to be a prosumer? So that's like theoretical debate that everyone's having before they're going to realize, okay, it has to happen economically, right? Because that's the mass adoption thing. So it's early adopters. It's like any technology, right? No one knew iPhones 10 years ago because they were real expensive. It didn't make sense to have one. It was just more the freaks, technology freaks who wanted to have it. And they would pay ridiculous premium around it. So where is it going, actually? So it's going very interestingly. So there's more capital going to it. There's going to be need for 2 trillion of capital to be deployed in the infrastructure projects around the world. And guess who's leading it? So obviously, that's another point to mention. There's like these new breakthroughs, like perovskite, which could technically completely reshape the solar industry, right? Which would make it like 10 times more efficient and cheaper and more reliable. And these are the things that we're after, I guess, as a fund, so from our perspective. So it's quite a, so social element is a massive one, I think. Everyone looks at numbers, and numbers always talk for themselves, right? So I think that's why a lot of like Paris Agreement are pushing for something that thinks people gather for some common purpose. No, but it's actually numbers that are driving it more than anything. Everything has to be based by numbers, otherwise it doesn't make sense. It has to be agenda, economical, political, in a sense. But the benefits to society in general is just its monetary impact from segregation, from habitat in specific areas. Like Chinese has this a big problem. Like some of the cities you cannot even live because of the pollution that comes from the factories. And then what you demand when you go even more, you bring this technology to consumer. They understand, like the idea now behind like the venture capital and where this sort of industry is going is that your energy and like everything about it is not going to be somewhere hidden there. Like so there's a power plant to consume, like I get it somehow, like magic happens. You're going to know day by day what you consume, where is it coming from. You're going to know that it was that a green energy, was that a bad one, right? You're going to know everything about your consumption. So the idea now is what we're bringing with all this technology around the world is like knowledge and understanding about things that you consume, you take, you use. Because before we would take everything for granted, and no one takes anything for granted anymore. I mean, it's a choice. You can't, if you don't want to invest in time to understand what you're doing. But I think that's very conceptually interesting. And then it becomes very interesting how you get to the consumer. And majority of these small inventions that happens, to take one Nest, they're actually big data companies. Why did Google acquire it? Because they need data. They need access point to consumer. And the focus of these majority of companies is not just make your life easier, that's part of the value proposition, but actually access your data. So Google is the biggest data company in the world. It's not the biggest search engine in the world. It's the biggest technology-empowered search engine company that acquires your data and makes money out of it. So a lot of these sort of, technologies help you from consumer side, but this one particular example, it's very interesting where the whole sort of county changed their consumption. What happens is they can actually price live what you consume and make your bill lower. So that becomes a very interesting point from consumer side because then you have economic incentive to do that. Always a lot of different innovations around grid intelligence, but that's more from the utility side of things. So basically optimizing how energy moves across the grid on a country level, on a more like European level, for example, and optimizing those outflows to basically oversell, oversupply, or demand that has been unused, utilizing demand that has been used. Talking about data, so something that is very interesting and as an example, using algorithms that again, Google owns, DeepMind, they managed to optimize sort of the facility efficiency by 15%. And if we're talking about projects that are 11 billion and that manufacture like hundreds of terawatts, like, okay, not terawatts, but megawatts, that becomes a significant cost advantage. Being done with something that is software, it becomes quite magical from my perspective. And you know, these things are going full scale. So UK grid is being balanced by an algorithm now, not by a human in front of a computer. Storage becomes a very interesting topic as well to cover because now we're having this flux of EVs, all of this over generation. And I have a friend who has a startup in UK, very interesting. So he raised 167 million, partially for infrastructure investments to be the biggest storage provider in UK for electricity. After 3 years, he's second biggest trader of electricity in UK market. I mean, we're talking UK, not like Lithuania or a small country, right? So he basically buys at a downtimes where the consumption is low and sells it when the consumption is high, so your peak times, right? And he done it in that 3 years with not owning a single facility and doing that with an algorithm. He used to be a trader in Trafigura, one of the well-known energy trading companies as a commodity house. So it's quite amazing because, you know, the companies, as you know, utility companies, they've been around for like hundreds of years. And you have a guy who raises 170 million from venture capital and like Japanese investors and does this in 3 years. So the pace of innovation is quite amazing. Tesla, Tesla, probably everyone knows, right? So they're trying to build gigafactories, but everyone thinks of Tesla and they, like, you know, when you think about EVs and everything, Tesla is the most greatest company, but the level of like manufacturing they're doing is actually ridiculously small. So there's a battery producer in China that does probably 25 times more than Tesla, like gigafactory-wise, right? I mean, Elon Musk is a great marketing guy. Also, I met a guy recently, like 3 weeks ago, who sold his company that is the single biggest renewable installer in US. So out of 100 Fortune 100 biggest companies in US, he installed his solar panels on 67 of those. So he has his clients as Walmart, Target, one of the biggest retail clients in US. And he sold his company for 300 million just like 6 months ago. And he built it in 8 years. And it's a very interesting point why I'm mentioning this, because in 10 years, this whole industry went crazy, right? And it was done by private money. So all the economic incentives there. So whoever tells you that solar is expensive, it's just bullshit, basically, because it's not. It's just your psychological meaning that you need to install something, you need to take care, you need to understand something. That's your logical question. So that's the question whether you want to do it or you don't want to do it. So that's the choice a prosumer does. This is like sort of a predictions for 2050 that was done by Obama administration in US, I think. So what's going to happen? So there's a lot of like different elements that go into it, right? So like all these things that we spoke about, onshore, offshore wind increase, concentrated solar plants, solar panels, you know, but that has a very direct sort of impact to the economy in a sense, right? And it's all monetary. And what I'm driving to it is you always need to not forget the economic element of it, because nothing makes sense till it doesn't, but it has to make sense eventually, right? So, you know, even by that, everyone is speaking about like these fake news that, oh, why Trump is saying coal? Because coal was his sort of states where the voters voted him, right? And these are the states where have coal, like all these traditional energy producing elements. So like basically from nuclear to coal. And guess what? His biggest donors are Koch brothers, which own basically all the nuclear power plants and coal plants in the US. So it's a lot of lobbying, but conceptually everything makes sense. So when you hear someone, oh, they're going to lose so many jobs, but you know how many jobs are going to be created? We're not going, like one energy power plant in US employs 200 to 500 people. That's nothing. To deploy like solar panels, you probably need just that in one company. I don't know how many people you have in your company, but for like Baltic states, for example, to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So look, so it's kind of a bullshit argument that it's going to be losing jobs and economic impact to it. So yeah, so there's a lot of goals in sort of like the whole broader universe, but the trend is to be carbon free, right? And that's what's behind a lot of big companies. Saudi Aramco, for example, they're going to invest $5 billion in renewable deals in the course of 3-4 years now. There's one biggest solar plants being built all around the world. This being Myanmar, I think. I forget the flag. California, messed up with the slide, but I think that's 50%, 75, and then like 100% by 2045. So like these things are like long, like it's going to take 30 years, but that's sort of a goals to get there. And quite a few people are supporting it. So, you know, even Trump left, there's still quite a lot of people in the US that believe this is going to happen. So basically majority of the companies, other than the few that own the traditional generation, and all states, universities, and people probably you should rely and listen to. So it's funny how people are maneuvering in the technology sense. So someone like Elon Musk is a pretty cool guy, I think, to make statements like that, because he can probably afford to do that, and that's part of his game. But you can do pretty quickly like these things, right? If you want to. And that's more of a choice, again, an economical benefit to it. And I think he mentioned at some point that he needs how many gigafactories to power the whole world? I don't remember. It's like 100 or 200, something like that. Don't remember the name, the number. China, as much as they're sort of poisoning themselves with coal, they're pretty fast in everything what they do. Same is the renewable adoption. That's just for understanding. So I think their goal was to do this. Their goal was like this. There was 100, and it was at 200 next year. I think now they are at 256 gigawatts. So they're completely outreach. So solar is massive in China, both manufacturing side of things and both installing it. And they will, at even current status, they're 5x US in 2017. So just everyone, it's always relevant to reflect the numbers because they change everything. When we speak out US as being biggest solar producer, etc., no, it's not, because it's all about scale, right? This is an interesting parallel. This is a floating solar panel, and it used to be a coal mine before. Even something like smart guys as investors think that this is the next thing to do or invest to. There's quite a lot of initiatives that support both social elements and technological elements, of which quite a bunch of happy guys running the best companies, technology companies, gathered to do a private fund that's going to invest in technology companies in large scale. So like a fund that we are running is only 7 million as for now. So we can invest like early stage companies, right? These guys are backing the next revolution that's going to change the solar maybe. So it's just an interesting concept that people are thinking ahead. So there is hope. And in general, there's a lot of money invested in, technology on multiple layers via venture capital, private equity, infrastructure funds that are dedicating to find something new in the space. So to summarize, we're trying to find something that is, we're trying to find green, but we're trying to find something that is completely transparent and completely economic efficient. And our goal as a fund, in a sense, I mean, I'm just talking too ambitious for a guy who's running that small a fund, but I think it's to find these companies, and you never know where they're going to come. Maybe they're going to come from a bunch of people constructing something here and iterating. So innovation doesn't happen in a nice office or anywhere. It happens where people have motivation to do that and basically keen to challenge the problems or status quo. So my name is Rokas. I wouldn't take too much time, and if anyone has questions, I'm happy to address them.
Thank you, Rokas Pečelaitis, for a very interesting presentation. And we also would like to thank you with the certificate.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so we still have time, and now it's time for a second intriguing topic. And now we would like to invite Mantas Rukuija, a tech visionary and researcher, to speak about blockchain.
Hi everybody, I'm Mantas. Can you hear me? Yeah, good. I don't do presentations very often, but I'll do my best today. I mainly spend my time reading a lot, and in the recent few years I spent a really huge amount of time on researching blockchain technology, and I'll share some interesting points about how blockchain is related to energy. I would like to ask, how many of you have heard about cryptocurrency miners and like Bitcoin miners? Okay, so let's hope it. Yeah. All right, I'll just quick overview how blockchain works. It mainly enables immutable accounting of digital events. So basically, once information is on a blockchain, you can trust it. I think the weak point of that is when you enter the data into the blockchain. That's important security issue, but a lot of companies around the world are working on that. So basically, once the information is on blockchain, you can trust it, but I'll be talking today a blockchain which is used for a Bitcoin. So because blockchains are very different, but I think the most popular today is Bitcoin blockchain. And this is how blockchain mining works. Basically, you have small businesses, like in-home businesses, who are mining cryptocurrency, and you also have pretty much like they are called mining farms, large facilities with a lot of computing power, dedicated specifically for blockchain operations. This business is very energy hungry. We consume a lot of data, electricity, and also produce a lot of heat as a waste. As you can see in this picture, even a small operation like a few mining rigs, this guy is pumping out hot air out and pumping and cooling the air in. So basically, not only this part is consuming energy, but also this part is consuming a lot of energy. Now, especially when you pack a lot of miners with computer sets in one place, like larger in the mining farms, you need even more and more cooled air for operations. This is kind of statistics for Bitcoin, and as you can see, one Bitcoin transaction on average, it's yesterday's statistics, consumes that much of energy, which kind of sounds ridiculous, but that's the way it is, because everyone who runs mining operations, which means mining for new Bitcoins, everybody in the world competes to each other, and they consume a lot of energy, and only a few win actual Bitcoin as a reward. So at the end, the power consumption for one transaction is really big. And obviously on this chart, it's compared to Switzerland, so country closest to a Bitcoin in terms of electricity consumption. So the whole Bitcoin network consumes as much as energy today as Switzerland. And this problem is growing, since we all know that in some regions or at certain time in a day, you get to buy cheaper electricity. Miners of cryptocurrency know that and use that in practice. And basically, in some parts of the world, they get banned and are unwanted guests because simply we take all the cheap power and people are left with the expensive one. So, right. Yeah, and again, you can compare blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain. It's only, I would say, maybe half of all the Bitcoin blockchain consumes roughly about half of all the blockchain operations in general, because it's not only Bitcoin blockchain which is used in the world. There are many blockchains, and it's causing problems around the world. And the price of to mine one Bitcoin varies a lot. Depends, and it all basically depends on electricity price. It has direct parallel to how much you pay for electricity. Right. So what's happening since electrical price is very important for cryptocurrency miners and people who work in blockchain business as a miners. They start invest in green energy because not because they like green, it's because it's just cheaper and it's Bitcoin, well, cryptocurrency miners are very practical people. They look at only at the numbers. Energy is green or not is not too important for them. Important is only a price of electricity. So some people say it's a good thing. It drives, it fuels the renewable energy projects, which is kind of true. Now, another part of blockchain which is kind of related to energy, you can use blockchain, not Bitcoin blockchain, but let's say Ethereum blockchain or some other blockchains as a database, basically, and a value carrier. And from that, a lot of experimental projects are growing. There are few in the United States, and I know in Australia it's happening very active, where people in places where you have a lot of solar panels, you have solar power producers. They trade energy to their neighbors using blockchain technology. It's not that widely adopted yet, but trials are happening, and looks promising. But I cannot say what's going to happen in a few years. But because in my point of view, it depends a lot on smart meters being accepted. This smart meters working securely with blockchain, and also I think it's these smart meters who write the data about energy production into the blockchain. We also have to be accepted by all parties, including major energy networks. So a lot of things still have to happen in this area. And basically, all this is moving towards so-called shared economy, where pretty much not just data, but also value, which means basically money transfer, is automated between devices and consumers and prosumers. And a lot of projects evolving and especially in energy sector. So yeah, this is standard database, centralized, and this is distributed. So this is blockchain, you can say, database. The difference is that there is no central accountant who approves that the data is legit. On distributed database, people agree and trust. I mean, the technology allows to trust the records because you know it's impossible to manipulate the records. Where in a centralized database, you have to trust the central body that records are correct. And this is pretty much the how people see it in the energy sector. I'm sure it's not applicable in all situations, in all countries, because I think it depends a lot on actual physical infrastructure, and also depends on the certain regulations, but it's happening. Especially, I know a lot of trials happening where people are trading between themselves using blockchain technology. But I think it might be effective only if it becomes a larger like a project, not only to trade in some small village between each other. I think it's to run a blockchain probably not a good solution. But if it becomes global thing, globally accepted, then it looks promising. And I want this, I don't know if it works. Čia YouTube. Garsą tai reikėtų. Nežinau, kaip pasakyti, tikriausiai neturėsiu. Okay, taip, užpauzint reikėtų.
So I was born. Bank printed these. $100 trillion. When I showed this note to a friend here, he said, wow, that's more stars than there are in our galaxy.
This video I want to show you, it really inspires me, and I think it tells about potential of blockchain and energy market much more than I did myself here. Tai gal duokit man, aš susitvarkysiu.
As I can see, we are running a technical problem here. Mantas, is it the end of your presentation or you have more after the video?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
So maybe that can be a great conclusion for this topic, because our time management
Financial crisis. And the Zimbabwe dollar had already
have shifted again, and I think it will be better to shift towards the discussion, which will be moderated by Ignas Mikutis, energy efficiency expert and an independent consultant. And I would like to invite all the previous speakers of the second section to this conversation.
Hello. Yeah. As I was introduced, I'm in energy sector for the last 5 years, and mostly I worked with energy efficiency, partly in renewables and electric cars and similar green things. So I think the ones who left the event after the lunch break lost a lot, because we just had 3 great presentations, and even I felt that I'm familiar with the energy sector, and I still benefited and got a kind of compressed information in several slides. So here I have some questions for our discussion, and our discussion, the topic is called "Where the Energy Sector is Heading to, Challenges and Opportunities." So it sounds like a very broad topic, but we will try to nail it down in next 15 minutes or so. So my first question is also broad, but changes. But let's try take philosophical view, okay? So changes that are coming, in your opinion, are they overall for the better or for the worse, and why?
I can start. No, I mean, I think it was pretty clear from my presentation the way I stand by this topic. It's kind of, I mean, everything was a natural evolution, and you can call it technology or not. Was driving a car a technological invention? It was. I mean, depends how one realizes what technology is. Technology not necessarily has to be a software. It could be a technological invention. We used to call that innovation, right? In general as a word, invention. Like Newton invented electricity. Was that a technological innovation? Yes, it was. I think whether that's going for the better or worse, it always goes for the better, because it basically, it takes out slack. What technology genuinely does, it takes out slack of the economy. So if a trader was a good job in 1970s when you're in New York, sure. Was it a good job in 2018? Not really, because machine can do it better. So was it a natural evolution? It was. So everything in a sense is a natural evolution. It depends how it's incurred. So I think it's always for the better, because we need to step on our toes. As I always said, is that this is just like my sort of a thinking, the way I look at the world is, I mean, for the next generations to come, it's going to be harder, because they're going to need to learn what's happened before. And the ones that don't learn what happened before, they're just taking a gap. And you can learn things by taking gaps. There's no shortcuts. If you want to understand what is an energy sector, you need to understand how coal works and what was the evolution of coal. That was what I wanted to take a step back and go through what happened before, because in order to understand where we're going, one need to understand where we were. So I think this is just my sort of way of thinking and ideas.
Well, I could add a little bit. Well, I know. Didn't have a chance to tell the guys that I was inspired as well by their presentations, and it seems that maybe I said that I don't care what's going on in the back. Well, it's all about the customer, me and customer, if he buys or not. But it's not totally true. I kind of wanted to narrow it down a little bit, because at the same time I'm seeing myself as a professional of this industry, and of course I'm looking what's going on around, and I'm of course, I'm seeing how it's going to change us and what value we're going to bring to the customer. There's no way you cannot be not inspired, and no way you can just say, oh, okay, this is going to pass me. You know, and like I said, the technological changes, it's not like people get together and, well, what do I do today? Well, maybe I'll do this. You know, they see the problem. They see what they can change, and, you know, how to make it better. You know, of course, like I said, if you look at economically, initially it's not feasible. You know, eventually it gets to it.
Yeah,
you know,
that's why you need a venture capitalist in case they burn the money.
Yeah. You know, so basically, what I'm saying, you know, I'm waiting for those technological changes, you know, that boosted by venture capital, and that I can bring to the end user. Yeah, and use our channels and to spread the news. You know, so I have to be, you know, I have to be excited about it to make customers excited about it as well. You know, so would be my longer conclusion. Yes, it is for better.
Yeah, I personally see the best driver of any progress is business motivation, financial motivation, and I think it's the only way to progress, and I think Lithuania has shown that in this area it adapts to that very quickly. Let's take it's a bit different area, not electricity or something. It's a liquid gas for cars. It's very popular. At some point it peaked a lot in Lithuania simply because it's cheaper to drive on gas. And I mean, it's spread widely. Same with there was an initiative from Lithuanian government, I think 5 years ago, where we subsidized electricity for solar panels, and look what happened, it exploded immediately. So I think Lithuanian market is very open for any business, especially in energy market.
So you think that the main driver will remain rationality and like business and savings, etc. But at the same time, in your presentations, I heard partly sometimes the elements of that consumers might be not rational business-wise, but because of their statement. Let's say, for example, the Norway having the most electric cars per 1,000 person or so. Probably buys those electric cars not for money saving, are they?
No, I think there's two parts of it. Economy is very simple, the way it works, right? There's what drives in general any industry from start, right? It's either economic incentive or it's regulatory incentive or basically a law that requires you to do so, to comply, right? So it's either compliance or with the law or monetary incentives. I mean, blockchain of all things is one of the most greatest examples how technology got adoption very quickly for one reason: greed. There's nothing more added to that. If blockchain was in general as a technology itself, as an infrastructure technology and fueled with the ICOs that drove this sort of greed, is they put an incentive in motion that was so quick to adopt pure because we're living in this 21st century that was never before. Like blockchain would have taken 10 years ago, right? Because we have internet and social media. That fueled it. And with the spread of the news about it was so quick. And that what made technology that would have been obsolete in 2008 to be adopted now, because there was economical incentive. Or something that you made example like Norway or same UK, right? It's not that people are going to be economical. It's not going to be that it's going to be economical feasible to change cars to EVs because they still are very expensive, right? It's because there is a regulatory move to that. And someone sets the tone to do so. It's not that the power plants and coal power plants in UK have to be closed in 2025 are economical feasible. It's just the right thing to do. And these are the 6 sort of elements that I was trying to sort of outline. There's the social and the footprint, carbon footprint, is a cautious element to that. And the cautious element sometimes is more important than the economical one, right? If you have a natural disaster that happens in Fukushima or somewhere else that has an impact on the sort of geo kind of environment in that radius for the next 100 years. Right? It's something that you cannot measure in economical motion. So I think the balance of these 6 are the sort of ultimate goal that everyone's trying to achieve, and which one is the best is the time to show, which I think to the 6th element being technology are the most driving force behind it.
Well, I did that to Rokas, but I think he has a good partner to work with in general, Lietuvos Energy. Because, well, of course, you need not regulation, you know, that Lietuvos Energy can help you with, but infrastructure, and that you can find scale really quickly. You know, and of course, you know, some things need to be pushed, and when you talk about rational, it's much easier to deal with business to business. It is. And especially once it gets bigger. Lietuvos Energy is not small. You know, so you know it's easier to push those innovations and those deals. And but at the same time, I think sometimes I get stuck a little bit, you know, judging people by my own bubble, and then thinking that, you know, that everybody thinks alike. But when you go out in the masses, you see it's not real like that. And then when I mentioned this answer, that many people still tend to do nothing. You know, do nothing even though they just lots of going on until somebody tells you. So, you know, from the business side, I say, you know, keep up the good work. You know, we will make it happen. And at least, you know, put all the effort there.
So, who do you think should be the main drivers for this regulatory environment or ecosystem, as Martinez presented in your presentation? Like, we have a bunch of people, young people who are studying energy or similar fields, and most likely will be in the energy sector. So they're gonna choose whether to go to business or to go to state-owned company like big one, or corporations, or a regulatory or government, let's say. So should government say, you know, what is good and what is bad? How, like egg or chicken? You know, I'm still challenging the question whether just greedy should be the motivation.
I think, look, I want to believe in something that, you know, people are going to go and challenge the government and the businesses. That's called early stage companies, right? So I hope there's going to be more to them, because it adds to that natural sort of habitat of change. And blockchain is a very good example. I mean, of which I have a very good example to make. One of the partners in our fund is Nikolai, who actually raised 40 million via ICO to basically empower to build solar globally via tokenization of the equity in the project. So it's a great example, and now he goes to meet with the guys who are legislatively putting the full spectrum in the European Commission of how solar is going to be developed, and he's the one that is advising as an expert to them. So this is one of the best examples I can make that it happened in Lithuania, where someone goes and completely reinvents how one did the business for 100 years and says, you know what, guys, we know better than you do, because you just missed this crucial point, which is called technology in that. And, you know, technology, I think, in general, I think it's just efficiency and time and taking out the middleman. And I think what is very interesting to happen, for example, why Lithuanian Energy did a venture capital fund, right? Like, there's obviously multiple reasons behind it, but in general, like, why E.ON is doing a venture capital firm. It's very simple. Like, you're not going to be the middleman. You're going to make money from infrastructure, from data, from clients, but you become a platform initially, right? You become a platform from distribution for all these technologies. Not necessarily need to challenge those startups. You actually want to be befriended with them. That happened in fintech more than earlier. Now it's happening everywhere. It's agriculture, food. Like, you know, who's the biggest owner and investor in food sector? It's actually all those meat companies, or the same disruptors that are being or the same companies that are being disruptors. They're investing in these disruptors, and it has been like that before, I think.
I forgot the question.
But yeah, just a little bit. You know, it was one thing they mentioned that, you know, it's about ecosystem. So it's not, you know, I think the energy big utility companies will try to come out and I'll push you out of it.
Challenge the ecosystem, whether government or businesses. That was the question.
I mean, I truly do not believe in any government regulations like punishing ones. I think the best progress is made when it's really motivated financially, and that's how it explodes really fast. And it's not about greed, it's about potential to make business and make some money. And so it's not bad to make money, I believe. Yeah.
Greed is good in general if it's for the
I don't
For
know.
the right cause.
I don't know why you use the word greed in this.
No, but greed can be for money or greed can be for something bigger.
Oh, nice point. Because greediness brought like some disasters as well, probably like pollution, like plastic everywhere, et cetera, et cetera.
It's more related maybe to cryptocurrencies in general.
Or energy consumption, you know, in the basement and stealing electricity, maybe.
Yeah, good example. Some people steal electricity to mine cryptocurrencies.
For the good cause, eventually. Okay, we touched up on the big companies, corporations investing in venture capital, and also Martynas represents Electrum, which is part of another large Latvian energy company. And recently I read in Business News, Verslo žinios, Lithuanian one, interview with Nikolai Storonsky, CEO of fintech company Revolut. And he was very concrete, saying that banks gonna die and that they are not flexible enough, that they do not know what's coming, and the slower they are, or the more they are denying this, the better for Revolut and such type of companies. Do you think that this thought can be applied to energy sector, or how do you imagine it will evolve eventually?
I just have one short sentence. I think any industry at this point of time is basically, there's just one thing that is gradually changing between a startup and a corporate. The ease of access is just becoming like lower. The barrier is becoming lower. To establish a company like 20 years ago, it would have cost you a lot of money. Now it takes you 3 days, 1 day in Lithuania probably, right? Some places it takes you an hour. In Estonia, a good example, right? So the idea is that ease of access is becoming lower, not only on the level where you set up a company, develop technology, it becomes on the infrastructure as well. Because what are these big utilities? They're owners of infrastructure, not necessarily in the cases where it's actually private equity funds are owners of these infrastructures. So these guys are running operational business that is based dividend business, right? The use of technology actually is helping them to optimize these resources. So why wouldn't they use it? So I think what is changing towards that, where Nikolai is saying, I know him personally, and I think they raised in 3 years. Now they're raising a 1.5 billion round, which when I met him like 2 years ago, he was raising a 10 million round. Like these type of industries are massive in scale. So it's not that he's going to go and disrupt everyone. Come on, there's like 7 investment banks, like big investment banks that exist and still will exist, because Goldman Sachs, by the way, is the biggest investor in fintech companies, and it's actually the most successful one. Goldman Sachs invested more than Sequoia in fintech startups and made more exits than anyone in the world. So who are these technology companies? They still hold the 95% of the assets in the world. They still own the assets. So there's a distinction between technology and assets. And these are two not interchangeable. One cannot acquire with technology the assets because it's still monitored, term attached to it. So there's room for everyone. There is always going to be room for everyone. They will push the bar, but that's the natural evolution.
Maybe just one statistic from Accenture for the thought. There was this, again, questionnaire, but even in the Western European countries, about 27% of consumers actually use some kind of digital channels to connect to utilities, to suppliers, but only half of them use regular. So, you know, we still have, say, we talk about this little bit bubble here. It could be, you know, that we think about 85% never really use it. So, you know, it will still take some time to get to this 85%. And so there will be room for a long time, I think, you know, but unless somebody pushes it, you know, and massively, venture capital, you know.
Blockchain.
Blockchain, yeah.
I believe that if technology is capable of automatically doing the bank's job, banks will disappear, and it actually is not. It might happen also to companies even which are not banks, like Revolut. We are a bit more modern, but if everything really moves, let's say, towards automation and everything moves towards blockchain, then banks, yeah, will probably most likely will have to readjust their business model. And same, I think, future is for companies which are not banks but financial companies. And it's not only financial sector. I mean, we know the story where your fridge can order, you know, products for you, and and it was like a future vision. It's actually possible today. Technology allows that the fridge can order these products, pay for products, and also pay for electricity it's consuming. So it's the automation. I mean, I think technology is already here for all the automation. It just needs some time till it gets implemented around the world in all the sectors.
Do you think it needs only time, or yeah, go for it?
Bank, for example, in this Revolut example, bank is a status, a regulatory status. It's not a company, right? Bank, as per se, is just how you're defined in a country where you operate. What Revolut is, it's a platform. Everything is a platform. WeChat is a platform. WeChat probably is like 25 SCBs of the transactions that they do every day, probably, to what they do like a month. Is WeChat a bank? No, it's a platform. It's just a platform that facilitates payment. What is a bank? It's a payment from A to B, right? That's all it does. An additional service attached. That's a derivative of things. So the same as an energy company, it's a platform. Like all these businesses now, we understood a company before. Now we understand a platform, because the business is not just a country business. It's a global business. All the businesses that are big ones are global. None of them are regional anymore. China tried to pretend it's regional because they were banning everything else, but they're also building platforms.
Since the second part of the discussion was called challenges and opportunities, so we saw probably lots of opportunities in your presentations, and you mentioned some of them right now as well. What main challenges do you see industry will face? Yeah, you may list them. You can just mention them.
The energy industry. I think I would like to pass this question. I'm not too much into energy sector.
My biggest point of thought is trust. I mean, are you going to trust an energy company that's been around for 30 years? Probably you will, because it has been delivering you energy for 30 years. Are you going to trust someone that established an app with a bunch of 3 kids who are 22 years old? I don't know. It's up to you. It's up to your trust, sort of readiness and your tolerance towards that. But I think trust is the most important one in this sort of shift, because everything works till it doesn't. And when it doesn't, the repercussions are pretty big in something like energy. You can lose your card, you cannot pay, fine, you're going to get cash. What happens if your energy... Actually, it's funny because my energy wasn't working yesterday in the whole Pilemo street, and I think that everything wasn't working for like a block. So what happens? You don't have energy. You can't charge your phone. That's why I don't have my iPhone charged now. So everything stops. It's the holy grail of the other things, right? Everything we have in our pockets and around, and how we interact and how I speak and like this lighting, it's all powered by energy. What happens if it goes down? It goes down. We do nothing. We leave the building. So it's the repercussions towards that are very important. So trust as well as reliability, I think the two ones.
I talked about the clients, but I think the biggest challenge, because we just talked yesterday, talking about big utilities, the production that you have, if you have production, probably coming back to your presentation, it's even the biggest challenges in the near term. If we think about ST Energy and about their Narva plants, about this shale oil, it's eventually coming down that, they will have to close them down. So what do? They do the same thing. They look for the roofs in Estonia, the 10,000 square meters, they build solar panels on top of them that they keep the ownership of, but they can count in their production. You know, so it's really changing their business. You know, they have to run around quickly and think of something because they were in the very, very good position of dominating the wholesale market in this region before they had Nordbalt. You know, so suddenly, pop, regulation there. You know, this is the answer to regulation. So what do you do? You know, yeah, reinvent yourself, exactly. But I had another thing, but I forgot. But next year, but.
Yeah, Mantas challenges in blockchain since.
Yeah, I think that it's blockchain currently it's facing challenge to prove why it's useful, and also, I mean, from security point of view, it looks pretty reliable, but on adoption, it still, I think, has to prove. I mean, in theory, it's easy to prove, but I'm looking for really good practical examples, especially not in cryptocurrencies, but some, I mean, especially in blockchain to devices, Internet of Things and blockchain, how we will be able to transform different sectors. I mean, a lot of promising projects are happening, and I'm really excited, and I'm waiting to see what the history will show. I mean, but it just needs time to prove itself, I would say.
Okay, let's say today we have a after party energy day celebration, and we kind of start arguing, discussing, and each of us, since we are not students anymore, let's say would bet 1,500, 1,000 something. So what would it be? Talking about the forecast, like trends or anything, you know, you would say. Let's say you go for energy or related. Mantas may choose his own. Yeah, what would it be? Pardon?
I'll bet food because, just to understand, I think our meat production contributes 35% of all CO2 that is emission.
Yeah.
I mean, if you solve food, you solve energy.
Super. Interesting thought.
So, what? Okay. I would bet that in next few years we'll see a lot of automation. Because the technology is already here. It's not, but it's not used like you know, when first iPhone came out. The technology was already there for quite some time. It's just nobody took and used this as nicely and attractively as Apple. And then everybody saw, wow, what a fantastic use case, you know, and let's everybody do it. But first of all, we laughed at it, like look at Microsoft, we laughed a lot at, and now we tried to catch up, and we don't do anything important in mobile phone market. So I think what I see now, we have a lot of good technology, very promising technology, which is ready to use. It's just we need companies who actually start using them and coming up with useful products.
I don't know if I would bet, but maybe I'll just say about some thoughts.
There is always in the company the one who doesn't want to bet.
Okay, well, so I'm betting one thing, and this is related to smart cities that I saw in the presentation. And I'm betting on one thing that it's related to this idea of bringing people and bringing, I don't know, something out from the cities to the rural areas. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You know, looking about infrastructure and about everything, it will be just much cheaper, much faster to live in the city. And then, you know, so this is my big bet. You know, we cannot just turn away from something that's happening in the world, and you know, everything is concentrated in the city. So.
think it was always the luxury to live outside.
Yeah. And
even though you think counterintuitive.
it's the same idea. I don't know. Maybe I'll just say one thing. And we're discussing in Latvia the same thing. I said, if you think about infrastructure, about the power lines, and you think about the power line 1 kilometer say in the city, how much power passes through it, let's say each day, and you think about the same kilometer of power line that goes to one house in the woods, how much power passes to that, and the same user in the city pays the same amount that the user in the woods. So eventually we say, okay, it's fair that everybody gets the service, but eventually somebody says, if you want to live in the woods, pay for it.
Okay, so we just spent 3,000 euros on betting on food industry, automation, and smart cities. So my guess, I didn't prepare for that. Okay, but I have my option as well. I would bet on clean transport, basically electric cars, or even gas as a transition gas, let's say, transition fuel for public transportation and for private as well. Yeah, so I hope that we will have many energy days in the future, and there will be challengers from this audience who will remember this, whether somebody won or lost. And thanks everyone for listening. Have a great Energy Day.
Thank you very much, our dear speakers, for a great and thought-provoking discussion. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to Mantas Rukuija, because I forgot it. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you. And also for Ignas Mikutis for a great moderation of a discussion. Thank you. And now we have a coffee break, which will last 20 minutes, and then we will have a last section about transport. See you soon.